Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in 10.2, you're going to have to make a very big decision, and you definitely don't want to be making the wrong one. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering all of the specializations for patch 10.2 and what I think about them in terms of how fun are they. So this is a really important component because you have no guarantee as far as game balance is concerned. This is going to be the most volatile point of the expansion from what I have seen throughout history for things to get nerfed and things to get buffed. So it is often much better to approach it from the angle of what is looking the most fun, what is going to fit your playstyle, what is going to fit the content that you want to be doing. Note that there's going to be new features like the Battleground Blitz Brawl, which is going to be the predecessor to the ranked solo queue bracket for Battleground. So you might be wanting to focus on that. Which ones are going to be really well suited for you? You're going to know by the end of this video. So let's get started. Affliction Warlock. You are getting massive buffs as an Affliction Warlock. You're getting armor buffs. You're going to be more tanky. You're doing the most amount of damage of any class in a battleground situation. However, when it comes to Arena, I'm a little bit concerned as far as game balance. Every patch is, oh my god, Affliction Warlock's going to take over. Perhaps with this new Warrior talent, Warrior Warlock could be really strong. There's a new Safeguard Intervene that could redirect a lot of damage away from the Warlock, make them super tanky, and with the MS of the Warrior, provide a lot of damage and execute power to that team and composition. We might see a resurgence in it. Now, Affliction Warlock has a high skill cap. If you're not ready to invest a lot of time to this, it's probably going to be pretty frustrating. And if you're expecting yourself to play at a lower rating scale, it's probably less fun the lower rated you are. It gets more fun the higher rated you get, because the better you get at it and higher ratings, there's more casters, and that's where you're going to be more dominant. If you want to focus on Battlegrounds, it's going to be great. But if you want to have like a well-balanced experience and you're kind of like, you're not really expecting to be a high-rated player, it might be a bit rough. For me, I'm saying it's probably going to be a good alt. I'm planning to do a lot of the Battleground content, so that's going to be a main focus for me. But it's not grabbing me 100% as a main. I've done the 2400 solo shuffle challenge on it. It was a lot of fun, but it's not grabbing me 100%. Not enough is changing for it, honestly, for me to want to invest in it as a main. Arcane Mage, it's about the same as it is currently. You're going to get a little bit more missile damage on this patch, but it's gonna be really frustrating with being only one school of magic. It's super good against melee DPS, but much like Affliction, it's probably worse off at the lower ratings than it is at the high ratings, so you got to be invested in the specialization if you want to main it. It's probably going to be frustrating in Battlegrounds. They did just enable that you can use Bloodlust in Battlegrounds, so maybe it's going to be a little bit more viable there as a result, but having one school of magic, you're going to be interrupted the whole time and raging, and unless you get really good at the kiting, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the things that are great about it, so think about that when you're picking it as a main. For me, it's kind of mid. It's the same. Arcane is just the same. Touch of the Magi, Arcane Surge, get kicked on every arcane missiles that you try and cast. I think it's going to end up being pretty mid for me personally. Nothing really new or exciting grabbing me. Arms Warrior. Now, this is one that is gravitating to me. I always love Arms Warrior. With the new talents coming in, it's going to be really rewarding to players that are using their intervenes correctly. You're going to be completely unstoppable in that regard. I think you're going to provide a lot of support in Battleground scenarios for the solo Blitz Brawl with things like Sharpened Blade. You're going to be able to carry fights and run people down through their healing, which is going to be a really important component. So for me, Arms Warrior is always a specialization that I enjoy, and I feel like in this patch they're hitting the archetype for warrior like nail on the head. I think it's going to be one of the best experiences Arms Warriors have, with a couple of new toys or returning toys to it. Assassination Rogue, they're basically just buffing your damage. You're just going to be getting a little bit more AoE damage as well as single target damage in this build. Nothing really new. Kind of interested to check it out because I haven't played it in a long time. I'm probably going to be putting it here as it looks fun. Might pick it up after I've gone through the classes that I'm considering for main or the classes I'm considering for alt. It looks fun, but it also could just be more of the same for Assassination, honestly, in 10.2. It's really just a tuning thing. I think they're just getting more damage. Balanced Druid, this is one that I'm always maining. I feel like this is like one of the best specs to play. It's good in like all of the brackets in the game, really versatile, has the ability to carry. It's all right at lower rankings when you're just beginning with Bear Form as a safety net. Incarnation is a good kind of just immediate measure of burst damage that any player can get out at any skill level. It's just really well balanced with a skill curve that you can develop through towards mastery. I think it's one of the best design specs in the game, which is likely why I keep going back to it as a main. And the way that it's tuned at the moment, it's likely going to be the same case, although there's not really anything new. And the set bonus is kind of lackluster. This is like purely based on like spec design for me, as far as it being fun. It's got a nice mix of casted spells and instant cast spells to keep that variety going and competitive viability. Beast Mastery Hunter, You're just going to summon a lot of pets and be really annoying in this patch, which, I mean, if that sounds like fun to you, all to you, but your set bonus is basically just summon a ton of dire beasts, and they're doing a lot of damage. Like, BM Hunter is keeping up with Affliction Warlock on the scoreboards that I was seeing so far. It's going to be a lot stronger. I'm probably going to put it in kind of just looks fun because of this new dire beast mechanic. It's at least got something new for it. But as far as mechanic design, it's really good for a beginner, but I think you're going to run out of steam on enjoying it if you want to play something really long-term and dedicate yourself to mastery. If you're just looking for some dirty, quick fun, Beast Mastery Hunter is going to be the specialization that you want to pick. Blood Death Knight, we're just throwing this one on the yuck. We're not really doing the tanks here in this video, but I guess actually if you want to consider Battlegrounds, should we consider Battlegrounds? I mean, I got to give this a fair assessment because this is where tanks are likely going to be viable. Blood Death Knight in Battlegrounds. Now, you can death grip people a lot, and you're actually getting some damage buffs. So you can just pull somebody out of a fight completely, but you don't have any mobility. So for me, it's probably yuck. You're just an annoyance. You're just going to grip one guy the whole game and keep gripping him into the corner, and that's all you're going to do. And I don't see you being much useful aside from that. Maybe, spinning a flag or something. You're probably going to be one of the worst flag carriers, I would assume. Brewmaster, again, it's probably mid. You've got an okay amount of mobility, but I'm really doubting that you're going to keep up with Vengeance or Guardian Druid in that regard. So it's probably going to feel a bit mid over that of Blood Death Knight, but you can pull people around the map. Demonology Warlock, you're getting a lot of rearrangements of your damage. So instead of all the damage coming from the Tyrant, it's going to now be buffing all of your other demons. Pit Lord got a rework. This guy is casting lasers now. He's not just running around with a stick. Like, let me hit you. I got my stick. Now he's got a laser cannon that he's shooting at people. So your demons are getting super powered up, and the damage profile is getting spread out. So it's going to be a lot more enjoyable in PvP. For me, I could see this definitely as an alt. At the moment, and if that's catching your attention, it looks like a much better iteration of Demonology if this is a specialization that you've wanted to main in the past. Destruction Warlock, this is a main specialization for me. With the set bonus coming in for it, you're going to be proccing a lot of interdimensional rifts, and I love dot proc playstyle. It's a super fun one in PvP, so Destruction is going to be taking that one with the set bonuses coming in, and it's just doing a monstrous amount of damage. It's got great control, and in the hands of a skilled player, it's going to feel really awesome. So I like the curve of this specialization overall and the new toys that it's getting. Devastation Evoker, more or less the same thing. It's kind of just mid for me at this point. I did the 2400 solo shuffle challenge on it. It's not getting enough new stuff really to kind of grab me for a long-term investment. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit less casino than it has in the past, at least, with Disintegrate being one of your main damage profiles now, as opposed to just the instant cast Fire Breath. So you got a bit more consistency than you have in the past. But the kit is just not fleshed out enough for me to really want to like main it long term. And I think it's probably just going to be kind of mid. There's nothing like new on it that's really grabbing me at the moment. It's probably going to sit there. Discipline Priest. Now this is a specialization that I could see myself maining. I love min-maxing damage and healing. I'm actually probably going to be doing a rank 1 push on this on my stream. It's linked in the description down below. I love mixing damage and healing and finding moments to squeeze in as much as I can, and they're reworking it so it's going to be easier to accomplish that. It's going to be a lot more new player friendly as well. So if you've ever been considering it but you're worried about the binds or how difficult it's going to be, it seems like 10.2 is the best time to do it, while it's still retaining kind of its archetype and identity. So I think this is one of the best patches to play a Discipline Priest in any content. Elemental Shaman, you're basically just getting more meat. They're giving you more lava bursts. That's what your set bonus is going to be. It's just more lava bursts. You're probably going to have a little bit more build diversity. I've already seen some hardcasted one-shot Ellie builds, and I think those are probably going to even come through as well in this patch. I could see this as an alt. I really, again, like dot and proc playstyle, where you get flame shocks up and you're just shooting out lava bursts. It's really new player friendly in that regard. You're going to top damage meters way easier than something like an Affliction Warlock would if you're worried about skill development. And it's got a nice curve towards mastery with things like grounding and wind shear and trying to shut down your opponent. So it's got a nice curve, nice differentiating talent builds, and you're just going to get more meatballs. But there's not that extra layer really for me in terms of controlling the game that's grabbing it for 100% is like I want to main this in this patch, but it's looking a little bit more intriguing. I could say maybe it looks fun. These guys are basically in the same boat. They're like the same as they've been, with a little new toy or a little bit more damage. So somewhere in here, but I did really enjoy Ellie, so I could see it as an alt. Enhancement Shaman, they're rebalancing your spells, so hopefully that it's not just only the Doomwinds build, but I'm thinking it might just end up being the Doomwinds build because the proc ascendance is still likely going to be so strong. So for me, it's honestly, Enhancement can be fun, but I don't like the Storm Strike, and if you don't proc in a game, then you can't win. And then if you proc 3 times, you just win for no reason. I don't like that. I really don't like that playstyle. I'm giving this class a harsh rating. I'm giving it a harsh rating because I'm tired of that playstyle. I'm tired of running around as enhance or fighting enhance, and if they don't proc, then they're useless, or if they proc, they instantly win for no reason. I'm saying yuck. I think this is a yuck spec. I think that the rest of the kit, when you're running the Lava Lash build, is really fun, but this Ascendance procking RNG spec that's just been dominating 10.1.7 is likely going to dominate 10.2. Is just yuck for me. Now, if you want a casino proc spec, maybe you're not so great at the game and you want to roll the dice and rely on a little bit of RNG to win your games, it's going to be a spec that can deliver that. It's probably not going to be great in Battlegrounds. It's probably only going to be good in 3s. So I'm giving it a pretty low rating overall in terms of performance, but also fun. I'm tired of that build. I wish they would just get rid of it. Feral Druid. You're basically getting fire dots on top of your bleeds. They're focusing on your ferocious bite, so you're probably going to be able to play more burst builds. So you're going to have a little bit more diversity of builds, which is nice. You can carry games with Cyclone similar to Boomkin. I could definitely see this as a specialization for me this patch as an alt. It's a spec that I don't play very often, and you would think, well, like, why? Because I play Boomkin, but this patch, it is actually grabbing me a little bit more than in the past. I think the set bonuses are playing a big factor into that in terms of increasing their damage, and I really want to try the Ferocious Bite build out. So Feral Druid might be a bit of a struggle in Battlegrounds. You at least bring MS at least, and Cyclone for healers, so you bring one of the best crowd controls and you bring MS, so those are likely still going to make you viable, and AoE bleed damage is not going to be negligible either. So I think Pharaoh could be a lot of fun in this patch. Fire Mage, there's really nothing new for you, man. Like the Glass Cannon build is fun, just being hyper squishy and trying to get out as much damage as you can before you get knocked down. I did enjoy it in that regard for my 2.4 solo shuffle challenge, but the set bonus is just upping your damage a little bit. There's nothing really new for my Fire Mage specifically, so for me it's probably just going to be kind of mid. I don't know if I'm going to be checking it out a lot unless something else changes, just because there's not much else that's really changing for it. It's basically the same Fire Mage spec that it has been. Now if you like that Fire Mage spec, it's going to be a lot of fun for you, so it's you can expect it to be the same. Frost Mage, your set bonuses suck. I hate playing the Glacial Spike build and that you're going to have to with the set bonus. I don't think there's going to be an option not to, unless you just don't want to wear your set bonuses, which you could. So unfortunately for me, Frost Mage is usually actually one of my most fun go-to specs. I really like just snaring people and annoying them, slowing them, preventing them from getting their target, and doing a lot of instant Ice Lance damage. I really like the Snowdrift build in on this patch, but with the set bonuses, man, it's kind of yucky for me. It's looking a little bit yucky. It's probably kind of mid. I'm kind of putting it on the kind of mid. Nothing new really grabbing me on this one. And this is, again, mostly just because there's the set bonuses and not a lot new coming for them. The baseline of a mage is really fun. If you've not played a mage or you really like mage, you're going to enjoy continuing to play mage, but I also want to include things like what new things are they getting? Is there anything of intrigue in regard to this? Frost Death Knight, they're letting your chill streak bounce off you, so hopefully you're not going to need, you'll be the second target. It'll hopefully be less annoying when you're trying to actually use that ability because of it, but it's not getting anything new other than that, and I don't know how Rogue got a rework before Frost Decay. Frost Decay, again, is like dirty pleasure fun, where you're going to run in and get a really big obliterate crits and try and grip people together and one-shot them with your cooldowns, and then pretty much you're going to do nothing after that point. So for me, I'm putting it on the yuck. That's, again, like, I can do that for like 5 minutes and I'm bored, and I think that's an important component when you're determining like long-term fun investment on a specialization. If you want that dirty fun, log in, have some immediate success, some cheesy bursts with cooldowns, it's going to deliver that. But if you want long-term investment fun, I don't think Frost DK is going to be able to deliver that, unfortunately. Fury Warrior, now this is dirty pleasure fun, but also Imba OP. You are doing the most damage of any melee DPS in the game. I'm putting it here on the looks fun, again, because I think I'm going to get more bored of it. I like the bleed playstyle of arms a little bit more than Fury. But if you want something that's just absolutely rock star, insanely powerful, and the set bonuses look amazingly fun for how much pressure it's going to be able to put out, Fury Warrior is definitely the go-to. It's just kind of not for me, I think, in terms of against arms. Guardian Druid, again, as a flag carrier, it probably looks fun. You're one of the most versatile tanks in the game. It's probably the best tank to pick up if you are going to play a tank for these battlegrounds, for the battleground brawl and the solo queue battlegrounds. Probably the tank that you're going to want to go for in terms of viability. Has a lot of different options that you can do in terms of play style. You offer support, crowd control, damage, really tanky, buff up your teams in interesting ways. It's the best tank in terms of design for battlegrounds for sure. Havoc Demon Hunter. Now, this one is Demon Hunter is actually a lot more complicated than it has been in previous expansions. It kind of gets, the rap for being the low keybind class, but I feel like there's actually other classes that have a lot less keybinds than Demon Hunter now. And you are getting a 2-minute cooldown metamorphosis. You're going to be absolutely overpowered. Blade Dance is tossing out throw glaives. You're going to be doing ridiculous soul rend damage. You're going to be absolutely out of this world. And it's the one patch where it's actually grabbing me. Like I'm just on to Demon Hunter now for my 2.4 challenge this season. Hopefully I'm going to finish that one, and that's going to lead into the next patch of just being absolutely bonkers. It's just getting so much new stuff, and I enjoy the mobility of it and jumping around. So I think Havoc Demon Hunter is going to be a really fun spec, and with all the different ways you can immune CCs and get setups, I feel like that adds a lot more intrigue and long-term fun than something like Fury Warrior. It's like Stormbolt Zug. So for me, Demon Hunter has got more layers to flesh through and a lot of new exciting things to check out. Holy Priest, unfortunately, is kind of just getting nerfed. I think some direct heals are getting buffed, but your cooldown reduction is getting nerfed. I don't see a lot of like new stuff coming for you. So for me, it's honestly kind of mid. It's just the same Holy Priest that it's been for a while, and you're just getting some nerfs on some of the interesting mechanics that you had. Kind of mid, just not for me personally on this one. If you liked that iteration of Holy Priest, it's going to continue to carry forward. Obviously, it's going to likely perform really well, but in terms of fun, there's not a lot of new stuff coming for it, and I think you can do more stuff global cooldown wise with Discipline than you can with Holy, which makes it more fun. Holy Paladin, yuck. It's just basically getting nerfed. It's basically just a weaker version than it currently is, and I don't really like the way that it currently is. You just run around instant casting with Holy Shocks. I find Holy Paladin to be really boring. One of the most boring healers. Like, I get bored of it so fast when it runs out and it's not getting anything new, that I feel like I would run out of steam. I don't know what type of person it takes, to spam play Holy Pally 24/7 and have 10 alts of it and still enjoy playing it after that, because my brain gets bored almost immediately with how simple it is. So it's a little too simple for me. Now, if you want a simple healer, that's going to be a good pick for you. So I do want to leave that with a caveat here. That's why it's good to watch every spec through the video, not just only the ranking. But I think I'll get bored of it. Marksmanship Hunter, you're basically picking this spec because it does the most ridiculously high unhealable damage for no reason. I feel like this is the only reason you're playing it, because if it didn't do ridiculously high unhealable damage, it's really boring. Like, it is really boring. You just sit there and press aim shot, and because aim shot and rapid fire kill people in one hit, it's really fun. You get the dopamine from winning a game really fast. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about it. I'm gonna say it looks fun just because it's imbalanced, but I actually want the spec to get a bit of a rework, but I don't think it's going to. But the damage of it makes it look fun. I mean, maybe I'll play it as an alt just because the damage of it is insane right now, but it's also going to get nerfed, so I don't know. I'm putting it down on looks fun right now, but it's dirty pleasure, obviously. Mistweaver Monk, I find this also to be a pretty boring healer. I'm putting it down on yuck. I think you're going to have to fist weave, so if you don't like fist weaving, it's probably not a good patch for you as a Mistweaver. They're doubling down on buffing a lot of the fist weaving talents. I don't like fist weaving personally, and the casted healing build, it's just missing an extra layer of aggressive involvement. When you're not running fist weaving, you're just too passive, and then when you're running fist weaving, it's way too all in. It's not a nice balance like Disc Priest has hit, unfortunately, for min-maxing your globals. It's either you feel like you're doing nothing or you're hopelessly crowd controlled. It's just not a lot of fun, but it's going to be really OP. It's going to be really OP. So remember that. This is a fun tier list, not a balanced tier list. This is probably the best healer in the game. So if you don't care about fun and you just want to be OP, then you should pick that. You should watch my tier list based on how powerful they are. This is, again, most fun long-term investment classes. Outlaw Rogue, they've done some quality of life improvements to it now, where your ambush procs replace Sinister Strike, so you got less keybinds. It's going to flow a little bit better, but they also removed Find Weakness, which is your only way to do damage. It's got a nice crowd control profile. I really like the CC, but it's just got no damage. I feel like it's probably just going to be kind of mid. There's not enough new for it. The Killing Spree buff doesn't matter. It doesn't do any damage, and you're going to CC'd on it anyways. So Killing Spree is kind of mid. I think Outlaw's kind of mid. Again, I think it's the worst spec in the game in terms of balance. I think it's the weakest spec across almost everything except maybe RMP in threes, which even Subtlety is probably better. So yeah, Outlaw is kind of rough. Preservation Evoker, you're getting a lot of ways to like proc echoes in this patch and just sending out a bunch of duplicated spells, which is kind of cool. So I could definitely see it as an alt. I feel like this is similar to Disc, a really fun spec that bounces between offense and defense really well designed, long-term investments, but a lot of powerful cooldowns to help new players, like Emerald Communion just being an immediate recovery. So it's got a nice balance of new player friendly and a spec advancement with some new echo mechanics on its set bonus. So pretty solid. Could definitely see it as an alt for myself. Prot Warrior, You know, surprisingly, I kind of want to say maybe this looks fun. It's getting some insane buffs, insane set bonuses. I might try it in a battleground at some point. I might try it in a BG blitz at some point, you know, knocking people around with the charges, see how much damage it can get out, maybe some cheesy damage build. Could actually be fun in the battlegrounds. Prop Paladin, I think it's probably going to be more of the same. It's probably just kind of mid. It's probably just more of the same. It's likely going to be strong in threes of the warriors and stuff. But in battlegrounds, your mobility is going to hinder you a bit. It's just the same prop paladin that you're always going to expect. Restoration Shaman. I really like Resto Shaman. I think it's super fun. I don't think it's the strongest healer by any means, but I really like the disruption, trying to stay on top of your globals, the high actions per minute. They're buffing your Riptide healing a lot in this patch. It's going to be a lot more new player friendly, allow you to recover a lot faster in that regard. So I could see this as an alt for myself. I think it's one of the weakest, maybe the weakest healer overall, but it's still fun. I think it's still fun. And if they hit the tuning right here in the next couple of weeks, then it could definitely be competitive as well. Resto Druid, I think this spec is grotesque. The amount of instant healing that you have now with Treeform getting buffed as it is and Grove Wardens getting called in, you just infinitely keep people at 100% health doing nothing. It's super disgusting, super overpowered, has been, and now is going to be even more overpowered in 10.2. And it's just so overpowered that I don't find it fun anymore. You don't have to cast. It's just, oh, my hots are up and I'm sitting in bear form 80 yards away. I don't think that's fun. I'm actually throwing this on the yuck. I'm throwing it on the yuck tier. I really don't like what's happened to Resto Druid. I was hoping for it to go to more of a clone play style and getting aggressive and looking for stuns and things like that. But you pretty much can only do that in twos. And other than that, it's just instant hots. I get bored of this thing so fast. Retribution Paladin, it's more of the same. I think it's kind of just mid. Again, you play this because it does disgusting damage and hits people really hard with Templar's Verdict. But I think it's kind of mid. Not going to be, I'm going to be brutally honest here. I think it's kind of mid in terms of long-term investment. I think you probably get bored of it if you're looking to play for a really long time on a patch. It's just more of the same. Shadow Priest, I think this one can be sometimes frustratingly fun. If you're a masochist, it's a lot of fun. New set bonuses are kind of cheesy around Catharsis, so if you don't want to play the Catharsis build, you might not like it that much. But it's got a nice balance and a nice kit, dot play style, some instant crowd control. It's likely going to be viable in all content. I could see it as an alt for me, maybe later on in the expansion, or later on in the patch, I should say. But right off the rip, there's nothing really grabbing me just yet for Shadow, but I could see it as an alt in the future. Subtlety Rogue, really big skill curve on this one. If you're just starting out, it's going to be a terrible experience. Once you figured out and mastered it, you are the most disgusting thing in the game. You're going to absolutely run people down. So if you want that long-term investment towards mastery and skill development, it's going to be a great spec for that. It looks kind of fun to me. I don't know why, but Subtlety never just grabs me immediately to play as a spec. So we'll go put it in the look fun for now. It looks fun with the new Gormaz bite coming back, how much burst damage it's going to have. It's basically a Super Saiyan version of the current version of Subtlety Rogue, but not really quite the playstyle for me in this current patch. Survival Hunter. Now you're getting a lot of cool set bonuses. It's gonna be Wildfire Bomb buffs, and I just did the 2400 challenge on this spec, and it was a lot of fun actually. It's not as disgusting as Marksman, where you're just sitting back pressing aim shot and rapid fire. But if you want a strategist, gameplay, you kind of like Piccolo and Dragon Ball Z. You're not a Super Saiyan. You got to come up with some really weird ways to win, but those weird ways to win are oddly satisfying. So I could easily see this as an alt. Maybe a little bit later into the expansion. It was a lot of fun when I tried it, and the new stuff that it's getting is making it even better. Unholy Death Knight, they're just, again, redistributing your damage, trying to get you more towards sustained damage, which is where Unholy should sit. I'd still really love to see Necrotic Strike come back to the specialization. You're going to be summoning in a lot of more undead monsters as well, more Necromancer gameplay. I'm going to say it looks fun, but it's not grabbing me immediately. For the patch, I tried it in some battlegrounds, been playing it on my solo shuffle challenge. Not one that's getting me 100%, not gripping me 100%. So it looks fun. Definitely gonna check it out at some point, but it's a little bit later on my list. Vengeance Demon Hunter. Honestly, this one looks fun. I think the jumping around, you've got decent damage output. I could see the specialization definitely being a lot of fun as a tank if you're wanting to do the battlegrounds. And honestly, even if you're doing solo shuffle, it's like a subtlety rogue of tank specs. I'm not even kidding. I played it a bit. It's literally a subtlety rogue. You have so much CC DRs and you set up burst damage. And you're just as unkillable as a subtlety rogue. Sub rogues are tank specs, guys. We confirmed it here today with Vengeance Demon Hunter the way that it is. Definitely a sleeper spec in terms of fun, though, from my personal experience. Windwalker Monk, you're basically the same. I think they're redistributing your damage to compensate for losing your set bonuses. You're basically the same. I don't see. I mean, again, you play this one because it's doing disgusting damage. It's probably. I want to say it's mid, man. I'm putting it on mid, bro. I'm putting it on mid. All right, we're going to organize this tier list a little bit more so it's less obvious, like where the specs rank on their current tier. If anybody's looking at this at the end and doesn't understand at all, that way it'll make more sense. Augmentation Evoker. This thing is way too simple. I played it. It was the easiest spec to get 2400 on. It's way too simple in PvP. The concept of buffing your allies, like most every other class has a way to buff their allies, a battle shout, a totem, something is like something to buff their allies. That concept not really great, in terms of grabbing me. I'm throwing this down on the yuck. I'm throwing this down on the ick. I'm throwing this down on the ick. It's going to be really OP. Don't get me wrong. This thing's going to be OP. But in terms of fun, long-term investment, I don't really see myself playing it. I see myself getting bored of it a little bit too fast. So let's reorganize this tier list so that it's like kind of like, caster, melee next to each other, which one is ranked depending on, where it's located on the current build in terms of fun. So right now, this is kind of my layout. As I've explained it, if you've jumped to this part of the video, you probably want to go back and watch each individual spec because this is not a power ranking. This is what is the most fun, what is going to keep my attention, what has got some new toys that I really need to check out right away on the patch. Some of these specs that are in the yuck tier are the most disgustingly overpowered specs right now in the patch, but they're down here because I found them incredibly boring throughout my testing. And sometimes they're so overpowered that it actually makes them boring. So it really depends on what your goals are. If you're looking for fun or you're looking for results, those are two entirely separate things. But I've really enjoyed these specs towards the top, and I could see them, holding my attention for a really long time. And that's something to take into consideration when you're picking something as a main. Considering these specs that are overpowered could just get nerfed off the face of the planet, and you pick something boring, and now you've got something boring that isn't OP. So have fun with that if that's the route you want to go. But other than that, that's it for me here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on great WoW content. Your support, as always, greatly appreciated. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.